Basically, the sat is a form of a spiral. Of course, you add brake, you're weight shifting, and as you turn the glider, if we're turning right, the turn swings your body out to the left and you start to cause maybe a dive. And when you're doing this, your brake on the right is on the low side of your arc. If you turn into a steep enough spiral, you'll have the glider pointed straight down, rotating, and that's just a straight down spiral. For a sat, you've got to turn so far that the tip that you're not giving brake on goes down towards the horizon and the brake becomes on the high side. So you turn it, and as it comes down from 45 to straight down, you need to quickly pull a lot of brake to get the tip down and the brake on the high side and you starting to rotate backwards. The penalties of messing a sat up: you're either going to end up with a very fast spiral, which needs to be exited properly, or you're going to end up in a negative spin. Either side of that coin needs experience backing it up. So what we do generally is we qualify you to do the sat by making sure that you can exit spirals smoothly and deliberately. And we also like to know that you've had some experience doing stalls and spins, which isn't entirely necessary, but we like to have that. We'll talk a little bit about the posture, which is basically how you're going to hold your body and how you're going to hold your brakes. Depending on your glider, what I do is I take a half wrap, reach my hand through the brake toggle and grab it at forefinger, and then I'll take another wrap on top of that. It's important that the wrap happens on the bone of your hand. You don't want it in this joint here because it can give you some problems. On the other side, you want to have no brake being applied, and I grab up about 3/4 of the way onto the riser for support. I push off the riser, lift my left leg if I'm going right, and I weight shift so far that my head is on the other side of the right riser. That lets me pull the brake down alongside my helmet and where I have power. With the wrap and a half, you only pull down as it's diving to here, and you never straighten your arm out. Part of the reason is if you did, you might injure yourself, and you don't need that much brake. With all that wrap and a half, just pulling down to here with all the weight shift is a lot. If you do it too slowly, you get a lot of rotation and either the outside tip will deflate and it'll throw your weight shift out and you can't make the tip dig in. And you've probably seen people attempt sats where the tip deflates. The other side of that is you are turning it towards the spiral, and as you pull that large amount of brake and weight shift when it's going from 45 to straight down, you rotate it too far and it spins and goes into a negative spin. I myself look at the glider and I reference the horizon with the wing. As you pull the sat in, one way to identify where you're at in the sat is to judge where your arm is holding onto the riser. When you're flying flat level, if these are my risers, my arm is sticking up right here. As I turn the glider into sat and I start to rotate, my arm is sticking down right here, which is rotating down to about 430 if I had a clock here on a rotation. If you rotate past that 435 and 6, it's spinning. You're going to go onto your back. If you notice it quickly, you can release the wrap, let off the riser and add outside brake, and it'll come right back out of it. If you're spinning it, it spins through, it goes around a rotation and a half, it throws you on your back, then you should probably stall it, hold it. Remember, you got a wrap over here and not over here. Let your wrap out, come back to even, ease up till the glider opens up and gets more overhead, and let it out of the stall like you normally would. If you do spin out a sat and you hold it for a rotation and a half and it throws you into a stall and you stall it, you've got to remember to let the wrap off of the side you had the sat, because otherwise when you ease up and you go to come out of your stall with one wrap and one not and you forget, the glider will go out sideways. those are the two sides of the spectrum between not pulling quick enough and hard enough to pulling too quick and too hard and spinning the glider. Basic parts of a sat are to make sure that you have the correct posture and you have the brake and your weight shift correct, to make sure that you have a sense for the timing on how to really pull that last part of the brake as the glider goes from 45 to straight down. You really need to pull to get the tip down below the horizon and the brake on top, as well as being committed, because when the tip goes down, it's a strange feeling. And if you're not committed to it, often people will release a little bit and it'll come out. The good news about when you get the sat and you've got it, all you need to do is just let off. The wrap, let off. When you do that, let the forces throw your weight shift outward. You can link up with a little outside brake. Then go back to center as you're going to be coming out in a spiral. As you see that you're going to be swinging up, you want to exercise the same procedure as exiting a spiral smoothly, which may be going back into the turn, but not enough to make it dive down at the ground, just enough to dampen it out. And that's that. So basically, once you release the brake for the sat, it's going to throw you out into a spiral, and you want to just exit that spiral just as you normally would. The thing about coming out of a sat is when you're in it, you start to think that you might not want to just release. But it turns out it's okay, just release. If you're holding it and you go to hit outside brake to come out of it, it actually makes the outside tip deflate, and it's not as smooth. So remember to just release, then tap outside brake and maybe go back to both for a moment. Let it throw your weight shift out, then back to center, and then be ready to go back into it for a smooth exit like you would a normal spiral. A sat is very dynamic feeling for the pilot because you start out with a very large circle arc, and when you enter into the sat, you drop the radius of that arc down to almost half. You get a pulse of a lot of G-forces as you enter that, and all those forces are really occurring on really basically half of your glider. It's not really, your glider is really not being loaded evenly either. So if anything's going to break your harness, your glider, or you in this stuff, it's probably going to be a sat. As far as doing it dynamic, doing a maneuver that's where you're not having line slacking problems, this is really the most aggressive thing I've seen for glider and body, and harness too. So keep that in mind. Anytime that you see your buddies doing a sat or you're thinking of doing a sat, you got to know you're trusting your equipment. Started to go loose.